All right, I'm just settling in here, making sure everything is up and running. Let's see. I don't know if you can hear that right now, but it is a stormy, rainy, windy day. I can actually hear the wind blowing through the trees. So that's a nice backdrop for a live didgeridoo stream from the Sunshine Coast. I see people appearing, and one thing I find interesting about the YouTube platform is I have no idea who you are. I think until you say something, until you go to the chat window on the right side and say hello. So while we wait for people to arrive, and throughout the next 90 minutes, I'd love to hear from people and hear where you're from, what's your name, all of that. So let me see if I can get this started. I'm gonna just type into the window here, welcome. All right. The other thing you can help with as we get this going is to let me know how the volume is, how the lighting is. So we've got someone from Germany, and it looks like your name, what's your name from Germany? Matthew from Vancouver, and Warren in Madison, Wisconsin. So guys, that just makes me feel so freaking awesome to think that Denise in Germany, Wisconsin, and Vancouver, we're all in kind of the same online place at once. I think that's pretty awesome. So what this shows me is how many people are watching, and then I actually see who you are once you chat. So that's pretty awesome. There's a fourth person, and that's either me or someone else. So if you want to chime in with your name and location, that would be fantastic. So welcome everyone. I was joking with my friend today that I'd hang out with about 4 people tonight for 90 minutes, and we're already at 4, so that's a great start. I thought I'd share just a little bit about my story, and then I'd love to hear a bit about yours as well. And once I've shared a bit of my story, I'll play a bit of didge, and then we can get some of the questions flowing. It's interesting to me because I actually started way back when I was a kid, just picking up a random didgeridoo, putting it to my mouth and blowing, and I got this sound. It just worked. But the idea of circular breathing was just far too crazy. I couldn't do it. Nope, not me. I immediately gave up and put it down and didn't go back to it for years and years and years. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Oka, but Oka came to Vancouver, and they actually played a show for a dance event called Just Dance. And the lead player, Oka, of Oka, Didgeridoo, just blew my mind. And the sound stayed with me, and I couldn't quite let go of it. But then a random didgeridoo master from Australia who'd moved to Vancouver friended me on Facebook, and I asked him why, and he couldn't remember. But I started getting his workshop announcements, and after a while, again, I couldn't resist. And so I signed up for a lesson, and it was like all those years of waiting must have gotten me ready, because it took me 24 hours to circular breathe. The drone came on the first day, circular breathing came on the next day, and so it wasn't long until I was playing full rhythms and learning new techniques and going to a didgeridoo gathering down in Oregon, and just absorbing as much as I could. So that's my story, and I'm just going to check over here on the side. Yep. I'd love to hear if you want to type up a little paragraph on the side of your stories. What got you into it? What were some of your obstacles? What do you feel like was a big success for you? What got you here now? And I'm always curious to hear where people consider themselves in their didgeridoo path. Are you still a beginner? Do you feel like you've learned a lot? Do you have more to learn? Are you a master, really advanced? I'm seen as a pretty good didgeridoo player among my community, but I have so much more to learn. And I think my special skill is just being able to teach it and break it down for other people. So, all that being said, let's get some didge playing happening here. I've got a few with me today, and I'll go ahead and start with just the box didge, which you may have seen in some of the other videos. It makes it really easy to sit in front of a webcam where you can see what's going on and where the sound actually reaches the microphone. But you can see back there a couple of other options that I'll also pull out and play and talk about. This one's pretty special. It was made by a maker called Orion Didgeridoos on Vancouver Island. It's about a $250 didgeridoo. You know, the way it works is that the chamber is built in a zigzag pattern running through the box. So the opening is here, and the end is there. And the hard wood, this paduk wood here, is quite resonant. It's what's used for keys on a marimba, and that resonance is what gives this box a decent sound. So I'll just go ahead and play for a bit, and then while you're listening, feel free to share your thoughts, your stories, or if you want to jump right in with any questions or requests, I'll take those next after I play here for a couple minutes. So here we go. You can also comment and let me know if you're having trouble hearing or not. I'm just going to adjust one thing so I make sure we're good. All right. All right. So I see some comments coming in. Okay, here. Oh my goodness, I love this. So Dennis, if you don't mind me sharing, started on a vacuum tube when a friend brought a Yidaki over from Australia in 1996 in your 20s. You got the circular breathing quickly for years, but it wouldn't get you. So that's that's quite the story. So 2 years ago, you started building a group here, and once a week you perform. That's great. I'm hearing some people talking in the background in case you see me being distracted there.
She has an answer for you.
Okay. I'll have to chat with her like after 8 today. Thanks. So I'm back. All right. Great. Thanks for the story. So similar thing has happened in Vancouver, actually. As soon as I started playing, I was super excited to have other people to play with, to find other people to learn from. So I started a Facebook group, and that helped propel the Vancouver Didgeridoo Players tribe. And I think they're meeting almost once a week, and then they have semi-regular late-night jams. And so people bring all their didges. You know, the floor is covered in didgeridoos and other instruments, and the jam goes as long as people like to play. So it's been really nice connecting with a range of people in a community brought together by such an amazing instrument. And then, yeah, you're mentioning the didge. It gives a lot of capacity for the voice. I end up responding to the particular didgeridoo that I'm playing. One like this makes me want to use my voice a lot more, and actually shows me that I have a lot more to do with my voice. If I were going to try to improve at didgeridoo playing now, even though I think I'd still like to learn some more technique and rhythm, I'd actually probably explore more vocal coaching, just so that my vocal range can improve. And I really feel like that's kind of my next layer, is bringing out the voice and vocal rhythms. So a question about how many people I have at those gatherings. You know, it really ranges. I've shown up and we've had 10 to 20 people, and each brings several didgeridoos. So if you can imagine 10 people each bringing 3 or 4 didgeridoos, all spread out around the floor, plus drums, shakers, flutes, other instruments. They're quite nice. I haven't been to one in a while. I've been living in a place outside the city, so I've missed them, and can't wait to get back to them. What about in Germany? If you want to share a little bit more of that, I'll share it with the others. Any questions so far about didgeridoo playing? didgeridoos in particular, like, you know, specific instruments. Another thought I had another question I had, if anyone's sparked by it, is what moves you when you play? Just now, when I played, I started with the sound as I always do, but what came through me, what I was feeling, was gratitude that all of you have shown up to hang out together. And I just let that feeling be in my body and in my thoughts as I play. And even though I'm still playing a rhythm, still probably making the same sounds that I always make, I just feel like something else happens. There's another level that the playing is imbued with when it has a feeling behind it. Any questions? While I wait for that, I found this image that I think is pretty fitting for anyone learning didgeridoo or anything else. So that's a learning curve I like to refer people to. So I see a comment here from Warren. So Warren's saying he started playing late last year, very much a beginner. And Matthew's posted the equation of that graph I just had there. Y equals sine of x plus x. Thanks for... I had to actually figure that out by entering somewhat random sine curves into a graph until I could get the right one to appear. So thanks for sharing that. And Warren mentions that he likes to learn, and so it's okay that, at least I get the sense that you're saying it's okay that there's a lot to learn because you like learning. You know, my girlfriend has been pointing out an interesting tendency I have around learning. Because I'm a quick learner, if something doesn't come really fast, I get frustrated. And I don't really like to admit it, but why not share it with you guys? I get frustrated, and it can feel like I'm banging my head against the wall until I finally have a breakthrough, or maybe even let it go for a while. But I also love learning, and I think the important thing is to find ways to keep it fresh enough so that the learning actually feels like a positive process. I saw a couple of people pop up on the feed. If anyone wants to share where they're from, if you're new here, share where you're from and what your name is, that would be awesome. And now I'm just looking at another comment. Not quite sure what you're referring to, Dennis. Tried a lot of conical lately to keep the rhythm structured. If you want to explain that, I can share that with everyone. That would be great. Until you write that up, and until some of the new folks post their names and locations, I want to share some rhythm. It's an example of a learning curve that went from incredibly challenging to actually helping me create one of my most successful YouTube videos. It's the didgeridoo triplet rhythm, and it's really interesting how I keep coming back to it. It keeps opening up rhythmic possibility again and again. So I'm going to back up a bit so I have room to play. And I'm going to play this Ash didgeridoo here. This is a whole other story. It's computer designed by a scientist named, I believe, Geipel. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Sorry, Dennis from Germany. Geipel in Germany. And he's designed it to have a very specific scale. That's what these curves help create. It's tuned to the Turkish gypsy scale. So the bass note is D, but then it jumps an octave and semitone to D sharp, and then A and C. So there are three really fairly easy natural toots, trumpets, and there are a couple of false ones in there as well. They're also AC, which I'm not that great at yet, but it just gives a nice wide range of sounds that are all in tune with each other and can be tuned with played with other instruments. Another nice feature is this widened mouthpiece, which allows for some of the technique that Will Thorin shows online, which he calls a drop octave. Brass players would call pedal notes, where they drop below the instrument's natural tone. So, some exploration of triple notes with this Frank Geipel designed didgeridoo. It's pretty long, so let's see here. So just a sound test, how was that? Can you guys hear that all right? Give me a thumbs up or some sign that you could actually hear the sound of that didge. I also want to welcome Bram from Ontario. He's saying he's trying to get his computer booting up. So thanks for the comment, and welcome Bram to the live stream. Right now we're just kind of getting everyone up and running. Great, a good from Warren, thanks. Okay, so I'll play in a moment here. Welcome Bram, and if you want to just keep in mind any questions you have, and if you want to share anything about where you're from, or your personal didgeridoo story, how long you've played, feel free to type away while I explore a bit on this triplet rhythm, which I just love so much. All right. Whew. I actually have a friend visiting from the city, and we've been playing didgeridoo off and on all day. And it's maybe the most I've played throughout the course of one day in a while, so I'm feeling the workout, which is great. So let's see. I see a couple comments popping up here. Okay, so Dennis is talking about a substance which helps you with rhythm. Is that right? And then the question also, how do I create and memorize rhythms? It's a bit of a mix. The creation of rhythms is actually a really interesting process. And I've been working on breaking it down for a couple of years now to try to give students kind of an entry point into where to even start. My teacher started me with, one of the simplest possible rhythms. He had me say into the didge, do, 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 and then breathe. So do, do, do to fill, and then a push and a circular breath. So looking at that, that's a 4-count rhythm. And I think of the counts as little slots where I can put a sound. So repeating 1, 2, 3, 4, or do, 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 that idea over and over, I can start to fill those slots in with different sound bites. Do, di, do, breath. Do, di, do, breath. do, taka, do, 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 do. And what happens is I'll start to return to certain sounds and certain combinations that I think sound good. So something like do, taka, do, breath. By itself, that rhythm is a little short to repeat by itself without some kind of variation. So we need to change it. We need to shrink a piece or expand a piece to make it interesting. If you're familiar with the nursery rhyme, Hickory Dickory Dock, that's actually a good tool to help understand how to make new rhythms. Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock. So those are like two sets of beats. The clock struck one, the mouse ran down, hickory dickory dock. Then we extend the pattern for the second half of the rhythm. That would be like going do, taka, do, breath. Do, taka, do, breath. Do, taka, do, taka, do, taka, do, breath. It's a nursery rhyme rhythm, but it works on the didge. That's just speeding it up. So now I have a structure. I don't have to really memorize it. You know, you asked about how do I memorize rhythms. I don't have to memorize it because it's a natural structure that I can pick up and fill at any point with different sounds. So now I'm going to start looking for ways that I can add more variation on top of that structure. So do, taka, do, breath. Well, what about putting voice on the first do? Or on both do's. Do, taka, do, do, taka, do. And there something just happened to change it again. I've built up a basic rhythm of do, taka, do, but maybe sometimes I'll go do, taka, 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 do, and mix up the sounds and repeat them. Rhythms can then be built bigger and bigger, and instead of starting from 4, you could start from 8 slots to fill in. Do, taka, do, di, do, 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 taka, do, di, do, 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 and then go from there. In the triplet rhythm I just played, I have a little chunk that goes do, do. So I repeat it twice and then extend it for 4 triplets. So 2 triplets do, 2 triplets do, 4 triplets do. This is a long answer, isn't it? I hope it's answering your question to some degree. So again, I don't have to memorize that. It's a sound nugget, a piece of sound that I can drop into any rhythm in a space. Where the memorization takes place is actually when I'm first learning something like that triplet rhythm. I have to teach my muscles and my body how to do it without thinking so hard, if that makes sense. And then it can just come out at any point. Thanks so much for the question. I'm going to look a little bit to the side here. I see someone who goes by T on YouTube, playing for a little under a year. And ever since their first circular breath, they've loved the energy they feel while playing. Could I go through the fast thumping technique called wobble or bounce breath? And then a question about my favorite instruments to accompany didge. So yeah, we can look at wobble for sure and the bounce. Let's make sure this is what you're actually talking about. So one example Kind of slowing it down so you can see what I'm doing. Is this kind of what you're getting at? Or the way I think of the wobble is a couple of parts. There's a part where some part of your mouth, for me cheeks, but also the jaw to some degree, pressurizes. And I use the breath from my diaphragm to inflate my cheeks. So you hear a sound, you hear the drone, and then you hear a sound on the inflate, right? After that inflate, there's a bit of a squeeze, and that creates the second sound. You hear that? I'm exaggerating it so you can really hear it. So what's happening is actually a change in the sound, a change in the pressure based on squeezing the cheeks, and an initial sound based on inflating the cheeks. They both change what goes on inside your mouth, and whatever you do inside your mouth is amplified in the didgeridoo. It's a good note that the didgeridoo isn't making any of the sounds. It's just an amplifier. All of the sounds are happening here. The reason it sometimes seems like you need the didgeridoo is because it actually, to make the sounds, it actually holds your lips in place. So you can buzz between that circle. And it makes it possible to isolate this piece which vibrates and this piece which inflates. The computer also gets a lot more saliva on it when I play that way. So, back to the question about the wobble. Depending on who plays it, they might have a different timing for when they breathe, when they expand, and when they push, and where they do that in their mouth. But the idea is still the same. There's expand and push, and we use the push to breathe in. So very slowly. Now cheeks are slower than jaw, and they have a much bigger kind of movement than just opening and closing the jaw. So it's a really good idea to practice the wobble or the bounce with the jaw. I need a spit screen. Yeah, when demonstrating didgeridoo, it's a really good idea to have a screen over the mic. Unfortunately, the way this is set up, the mic and the camera are in the same spot. So if I put a screen there, it would look like that. So there's another rhythmic, or we could say sound. No, it's both. Another rhythmic piece and another sound piece we can add to the wobble. Right now I'm going inflate, push, so I get like a 2 sound effect. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. If I follow that immediately with a ha, an exhalation or blow, then I can go 1, 2, ha. Fill, squeeze, blow. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I hope that answers your question. One of the things I find a little bit tricky when we're talking about techniques around the world is that we might end up interpreting the words slightly differently. One person's wobble or bounce breath might be slightly different from the next. But I think the general concept is going to be that pressurize. Anytime we inflate cheeks or open the jaw or the throat or move the tongue back to fill with air, we're pressurizing up here instead of down at our diaphragm. Then we're pushing, and then we're either repeating it or going off to something else, to another sound. So does that answer your question there, T? Also, let us know where you're from, if you don't mind. We've got a few folks from around the world. We've got Germany represented tonight, Wisconsin, Vancouver, and Ontario. And I'm in Roberts Creek, which is in an area called the Sunshine Coast. It's about it's a ferry ride and a bit of a drive from Vancouver, but we're not too far outside Vancouver. In answer to your other question, what are my favorite instruments to accompany didge? Just about everything. I'm actually trying to think of an instrument I don't like with didge. It depends on what key the didge is in, the particular timbre, the sound quality of a didge. I've heard it sound great with cello, violin. I play in a group that includes hung, shakuhachi, sitar, guitar. One musician in our group even built a tennis racket into what he calls Persian tennis racket. So he plays it on his lap, kind of like an upright mini cello, or like a violin sitting on his knee. It's quite interesting, and that sounds great with didge. So native flute. Someone I really love the playing of in Seattle, although I don't know if she's in Seattle right now. Her name's Pamela Mortensen. I saw her sitting playing a koshi chime as she was playing didge, and together they sounded awesome. So I went out and bought one right away. Ah, okay, so Bram, you're the one from Ontario. I get it now. Got it. Computer now in full force. And you're saying, when I fill up on air, do I just exhale out the nose? So when I end up with too much air, you're asking, where does the air go? Yeah, definitely. When I have too much air, let's say I've been circular breathing so much that the air is getting to the point where I have more than enough, then a beautiful secret tip that not many teachers seem to talk about is that I can exhale. When I first learned that, I couldn't tell if air was going in or out, if I needed more air or less air. There was just some challenge for me in feeling where my lungs were at and what my nose needed to do, and the coordination was insane. So if you can already circular breathe and you start to try it and it just feels really weird, it is. And the other interesting thing that might happen is you'll find yourself kind of it's like a snore or a snort, and that's just because you're working on the precision of your throat muscles to open and close the right chamber. Actually, since we're on that topic, I've got some slides set up here. Check this. Great question again from Germany. When you play with others, how do you work with them with the didge's fixed tonality? Great question. I actually, I've found that in the past to be a bit of a frustrating situation. If someone pulls out a guitar and they want to play an E, and my didge isn't even in tune to a standard scale, it's maybe D flat. This one, for example, I don't think this is precisely tuned. It's around D. It's not going to work that well, right? And this only works with something like a guitar if they tune to me. So, a couple of solutions. So this has been one of my favorite solutions, my favorite instruments over the last several years, because it offers exactly the flexibility you're referring to when playing with other musicians. It's what's needed, really. It tunes from G all the way to, it's roughly B. So we don't quite get A in there. It would be too long to reach. It's a PVC didgeridoo actually made in Indonesia. So you can see the inner tube there. So just to give an example of what that sounds like, I'll just go down all the notes. So I use this to tune to other musicians, this actually takes me right back to one of my inspirations to play, which is Oka. In a lot of the tracks, you'll hear him slide down and roll his tongue and create this really beautiful low note effect, which would be something like this. So there you go. That's the slide didge. And I've ended up using this on potentially more gigs than almost any other didgeridoo. Even though I have this great ash hardwood didgeridoo tuned to D, box didge, and several others, this just ends up being one of the most versatile choices I've ever made. And the crazy thing about it is that it's the cheapest didgeridoo. You can find these in the range of $60 to $80 in stores, and I've sold them in the past. I get bulk orders and end up selling them to people because they're so useful. And here, Bram in Ontario is confirming exactly what I'm saying. The PVC slide is a current favorite didge since I usually play with various instruments. There you go. Now, as an instrument, I don't find it all that satisfying. The sound is great in the right resonance space, and the sound is also great when amplified. I can clip my clip-on microphone right to the end, but I wanted something more, and I went on a hunt for Oka's didge, the one that Didgeridoo plays. And I found a guy in Australia named Scott Dunbar, found his website, put in a request, and found the didge. It's basically the plastic slide didgeridoo like this, but to a whole other level. Breaks down into 3 parts, has locking mechanism to lock it into place, has the full range. Needless to say, that process was a little bit lengthy, Scott had a lot going on in his life at the time, and he ended up not building me a plastic slide, but I ended up with this instead, which is a whole other thing. So this is a metal end. This is actually a 3-layered wood tube, and then there's the middle section. This is giving me a little bit of trouble when it comes to extending it. There we go. There's the upper section. The end even pops off here. There we go. So there's the end, that's the mouthpiece. So this is a wood slide all the way from Australia. It has a few interesting characteristics. The drone on it is quite nice. The vocals on it are quite weak. And still, compared to the $60 to $80 Indonesian didge, this one's $500. It doesn't slide as well. That didn't sound good. Whoops. So here's the sound of this didge from Australia. So I've used that for a number of shows since. You know what's funny is I'm pointing that didge down under the desk here, and the resonance under the desk is awesome. So it's making all of these didgeridoos sound really good. So maybe I need to find a way to integrate an amplified desk in my shows. So what I end up doing, depending on the show, is bringing instruments that match the key of instruments that I know ahead of time. Something like the hung. Two of the band members have hungs in D, so I can play a D didge and it's great. And then I'll have the plastic or the wood slide as a backup. So there's another long answer to your question about when I play with others, how do I work with them in the fixed tonality. You know, I do know that some people really end up just ignoring the tone. I've had a few sound people who are into maybe the more avant-garde version of music and jamming say, don't have to be in tune, the disharmony is nice. And unfortunately, I can't get past it. I really like purposeful harmony, and when there's disharmony, I like it to, you know, be for a reason, but I like to be able to return to harmony. So, nice smiley face from Matthew, thank you. So what do you think, Matthew? Are you inspired to take up didge at this point? We've had a few people come and go. I'm not sure if I missed anyone, or if anyone new is here who hasn't introduced themselves or mentioned where they're from. And while we do that, and I just take a sip of water here, Matthew says no, but inspired to go to another gig. Awesome. Well, that works for me. For those who don't know, I play with the World Fusion Collective called NAAD, N-A-A-D. I'll just spell that out right here, N-A-A-D. If you go to naad.ca, you'll see our website, and we do some shows that, kind of like Dennis asked, I still don't know if I'm saying your name right, I'm sorry if I'm not. We combine hung, guitar, flute, percussion, didgeridoo, jaw harp, and so many other instruments. Welcome, Claude. I'm really terrible at names from other language-speaking countries. Been playing for 15 months, 1 hour every day. Wow, 1 hour every day. Amazing. You know, I've made up my goal to get up 10 or 15 minutes early and allow myself that much time to play. I find it takes at least 15 to 20 minutes just to settle in, just for the didgeridoo itself to warm up, just for my mouth to warm up. And then it's after that, you know, things really start to happen. The magic happens, breakthroughs happen. But like Bram just said, can't find the space where folks don't mind that amount. It's similar for me. I even live in a house where the folks upstairs say they like the... Oops, I thought something was going to fall. They say they like the music. They like the sound. But I always end up wondering if after an hour of practicing every day, if they are just going to snap one day and come banging my door down and saying, that's enough. So, hasn't happened yet, but I tend to keep the playing short. I'll have to ask them after all are playing today. I can hear my friend still practicing. He's determined to get circular breathing in one evening. So, looks like Matthew's saying nod.ca, YouTube doesn't allow links in chat stream. So thanks for making that comment. Yeah, so nod.ca. Yeah, and Dennis is saying, thanks for the information and my time and effort. The medium is kind of unbalanced. Do you mean in terms of the fact that it's just me sitting here talking to you, taking your questions? Kind of feel like a one-person TV or radio show host. It's almost like a radio show where you can actually see my face. I'll wait for you to hear that response. There's a little bit of a delay. That's the other interesting thing about this format. I'm totally open to other formats if they work better. I just thought this would be a cool first exploration. Bram says his car is a good option in the winter when he can't get out into a park. So, car didging. I have a student in New Jersey who practices in the car. I'm a little bit worried for his safety. He does it while driving with a smaller box didge than I have. But yeah, finding practice spaces is interesting. And the rest of that comment about this being unbalanced, unbalanced to you all. Still not quite sure what you're getting at. I'm super curious. I'm super happy to put in the work and the time if people are interested. There's nothing more sad than having a passion to share and no one to share it with. And of course, I'd like to make income from lessons and classes and workshops. That would be amazing. From an online course, from views on YouTube. But, you know, money or no money, it's all about having people to share with. That's the part that is super exciting for me. That's what's kept me posting videos on YouTube this whole time. The fact that others out there might see it and benefit from it. Oh man, we've got Fusión de Vientos saying, what's up? Greetings from Tijuana, Mexico. That's crazy. So we've got Montreal in Ontario, Germany, Wisconsin, and now Mexico. Having difficulties tooting, any helpful tricks would be welcome. Hey, wait a second. Before I answer that question, and thank you so much for that question, can you see each other's chat? Have I been reading your own chat messages to you when you don't need me to do that? Okay. So, the toot. The toot's a tricky one. Here's an exercise for you all to try. Salud! Nice. Even though the didgeridoo helps make the buzzing of the lips, right? I can just, well, I'll use my hand here. I can just put my lips gently in the opening of the didgeridoo. Start to blow, and that circle helps hold things in place, right? It's really helpful to play without the didgeridoo and to practice that buzz on its own and be able to change the pitch. So there's a point where it starts to, might maybe start to have some trouble. That's where you need to keep practicing. And as you go higher and higher, you get into the trumpet notes. There, I'm losing it. My mouth is actually getting tired from all the playing I've done today. It's great. On the didge, it sounds like this. Some trust is needed that you'll get through the ugly sound. You'll go past the ugly sound and hit the toot. So low, weird sound, weird sound, weird sound, toot, and then back down. You can think of your mouth like a balloon. You can also think of your mouth like grandma pushing. But then, back roll lip, easy to toot. Yeah, you can also, some people say actually roll the bottom lip under the top. So when I do that, I'm just pulling this lip under the top. And the thing with that, it is a muscle. And the muscles need time to strengthen. And, obviously there's the issue with finding practice space to make that kind of sound over and over again until you get it. So, self-consciousness can come into play and be a factor. But it takes time to strengthen those muscles enough to be able to pinch that hard in an instant to make such a toot. Another question is, do you have any tips for training and dry training the second and third toot? This rolling back of the lip helps a lot. Also, certain didgeridoos don't make the toot nearly as well. This long one that I was playing before, the computer designed one, has 3 great, really nice, simple toots. And it's just pushing slightly harder to get there. They're pretty close in tuning, and so I don't need to suddenly add that much pressure. When you go from a bass drone to even an octave above it, the vibration of your lips has to double. So whatever frequency of vibration here that's happening for the drone, it has to go twice as fast for a toot. if the next toot is even higher, let's say another octave, it's not usually quite that high. It's about 5 tones, 6 tones, something like that. Then it has to increase by a similar proportion. So to get it, box didge actually has really tough toots. I'm pulling in. And again, the amount is pretty small. On my own, without the didge, first I want to find this note. Then see if I can get the next toot. There it is. And then it gets tricky. My point is that you want to be able to make the vibration away from the didge, but sometimes you need the didge to get the note, because every didge has its unique properties, and the toots can be arranged in a whole different scale. How can I now know if you're doing wobble? And Matthew also said the stream froze for you. It freezes once in a while. I would just suggest pressing Shift and then reload on your browser to reload it. And it's possible to go back in the stream, I believe, to watch what happened before. So, okay, so if that answers your question about the toot, I'll move on. In terms of dry practice, just to finish that thought, I don't do a lot of dry practice tooting. Maybe I should, and that's a good reminder. So I'll keep that in mind. And then how can you know if you're doing the wobble? So Mr. Fusion from Tijuana, what's your name? So I know who you are. We went over the wobble a little bit earlier in the talk, and just to reiterate, we can never talk about this stuff too much. There are 2 main sounds, and then there are extra sounds we can put on. One sound comes from filling, creating pressure, and one sound comes from squeezing. The first sound is just the drone, so that's not the wobble. I'm going to fill, and there's a bit of a push of air, or just the sound of filling. When you change the inside of your mouth, it changes the sound on the didge. Then there's the sound of pushing. As we integrate breathing on the push, we start to get a wobble. That's a 2-part version. If I on after the push, so fill, push, ha, I get a 3-part wobble. How do you know if you're wobbling? It's partly based on your definition or who tells you are. Not everyone has the same definition. It varies a little bit from person to person. My definition is to fill and squeeze. And when we start doing that, it creates that wah, 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 wah kind of sound. Jonathan from Tijuana. Thank you. Great idea, attuning the lips dryly to the altitude of the toots. Yeah, I think that is a great idea. Really practicing the lip buzzing and changing the pitch up and down. I think that's super good practice and kind of weird and fun. I've done it before while biking or driving, and when I'm doing it more often, I actually can circular breathe without a didge and keep the buzz going really nicely. Other times it struggles a little bit. not as good right now, but again, it's a thing that depends on whether or not we're practicing, how strong the muscles are, and what we've been focusing on. So we've had questions about the wobble and the toot. Yeah, all of the videos of wobble are going to be quite a bit different. I would actually be curious to know what you all think of a particular video. To find it on YouTube, it talks about sucking. Has anyone seen this? I believe it's a German fellow who has a channel called Didge House. It's Didgeridoo Revolution 3 True Sucking. Let me see if I can type that out. Didgeridoo Revolution 3 True Sucking. That's the name of his video. I would love it if you guys would do this. When we're done in about 15 minutes, go watch that video. And then email me, dryates@gmail.com, or sign up for my newsletter, and I'll send it out to you. I would love your impression on it. I find it one of the most confounding, confusing, but promising techniques I've seen online in a long time. And the guy's sound sounds really authentic to me. I think everyone has a different sound based on their language, based on their training, based on the music they listen to and what informs them. This fellow's particular playing sounds like Aboriginal playing. And while I'm not actually interested in trying to be a traditional player, since that's not really possible. I don't speak the language. I don't have the background. To be traditional means to be born into the tradition. So none of us, if we haven't been born as an Aboriginal, none of us can actually play fully and truly traditional style playing. But we can make sounds like they do if we understand the mechanics. So this guy, Didge House, talks about that. And I'd love it if you take a look and let me know your thoughts. Email them to me or sign up for my email list or post them on my Facebook page. And then Jonathan, you're saying you've seen a video but in daily motion with Dan Flynn. Is it about the wobble? I think he mentions that he actually made a video on daily motion with the didgeridoo that he made for me. It's the one that I played earlier. This one here, which I knocked over. Luckily, he made it extremely well. So this is a didge made by Dan Flynn, computer designed in Germany. And so he made a video on daily motion. Yeah, exactly, CSD. He made a video talking about some techniques. He taught me a rhythm, or maybe I learned it just by watching him. I think he taught me. I made a video out of it. It's called, I call it the Taka Waka rhythm. And it's Taka Ka, Taka Ka, Taka Breathe Ka. And that basically consists of something like the wobble or the bounce on the second half, but it starts with a taka to fill, and then push on the wa, and then say or articulate the ka. So the wobble is actually the second and third sound. Fill, push. If I do just the ka wa, That's the bounce wobble piece. So if I have the time, you'd love to hear about some vocal techniques and how I use them in rhythm. Xavier Rudd is a player who does this in a way you really dig. Yeah, I don't have the strongest voice, especially when it comes to singing. A first step is definitely to practice toning along with your didge. So to actually try to sing the note you're playing. So this is the part where I get to be vulnerable and do something I'm not that strong at. I'm going to try to find the note of the didge. So once I can find that note and match it, it doesn't actually change the sound that much, but dropping my voice a little bit or raising it will suddenly create some other pulses from the way the frequencies line up. No judging for me. Thanks, Bram. Jonathan, when you feel like it, if you want to explain what Digmo is, I'd be totally curious about that. So back to voice. So I start by just making notes. That's a great place to start just to get the vocals coming out. Then I'll play a little bit with the range, or just making something like the kookaburra sound just to warm up the vocals, and that's just a ka, koo, and that actually helps me get higher. My voice doesn't go that high, but with the K sound it does. Koo! So that's another place I'll start to get my voice working. And then I look for places in a rhythm to drop that in. So if you remember at the beginning, and for those of you who've joined us mid-flow, I consider rhythms to be 4-count or 8-count slots for sounds. The simplest version in the beginning was do, 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 breath. Do, 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 breath. Notice my hand. Do, 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 do. There's this upper place where my hand goes up before the next down. Do and do and do and do and do and do. It's another rhythmic possibility. It's an upside down slot. Do 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 do. I can put sounds on the up or the down. I'm going to pick 1 or 2 places to start to add a vocal on the down or an up. So let's say it's just at the beginning. Do, 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 do. Breathe. Do, 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 do. Breathe. Maybe the second and the third. Do, do, do. So I start to accent the sounds. You can almost think about it as layers. There's the articulation as you start to build a rhythm. Then you can add vocals on any of those articulations to make them sound more interesting, to give them more texture. That's one explanation out of many possible explanations. And just based on that question, I think I need to make a whole online course section just about where I put vocals and how. Didge house explanations don't work for you. Yeah. He explains it as if he knows it really well. I get that, but he definitely doesn't break it down for the average player. And usually I can figure things out based on even poor explanations. Mr. Didge house hasn't helped me very much, but what he does is awesome, and I want to learn it. So Digmo Online is for making didgeridoos. Cool. I'll have to look that up. I've never made a didgeridoo, not yet, but one of these days. So I'll be curious to look that up and see if it's a great resource. Syncopation. Yeah, you're talking about on the up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. We could get into a whole talk about rhythms. No problem. You're welcome. If I can come up with more ways to explain vocals to help you get a little bit further or create something new, I totally will. One thing I really like to do is a rhythm that's kind of like do, 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 do. Oh, no, that's that's the clave. It's not quite that. Sing a toot note to make a vocals. Sing a toot note. So you're saying sing a high note? Or sing during a toot note. Once heard a player at a didgeridoo festival in Oregon do a toot note while using his voice, and it was crazy sounding. This isn't quite the didge for that, but it's an interesting technique. It's a bit of a weird sound in my ears, but useful in the right place. My falsetto sounds so funny. Basically, listen, back there, you were mentioning the kanokol, the Indian rhythms, which is so great, like takita takita dina takidina takidina takita takida dina takidina takidina takadina taka. The Indian rhythm notation is a perfect way to practice new rhythms for didgeridoo. Or listen to music you like, and if you're suddenly going da da di daga daga da da di da daga daga da da di daga daga. For all those times you end up humming catchy tunes from the radio, turn that into didge playing, and whole new rhythms will unlock without you having to make rhythms or memorize rhythms. They're already in you. Let's see. True Didge House has great technique. I get learning a piece of traditional technique from Jeremy Cloak and find parallels to overtone singing even using the retroflex tongue. Yeah, I'll have to look up Jeremy Cloak. Thank you. I'm really hoping all your comments and questions don't disappear when we finish today. Maybe I should copy and paste them all into a document to save them. I don't know if you guys realize how freaking exciting it is for me to be here sharing this with you today and to have you actually hanging out for 90 minutes to an hour talking about didgeridoo with me. It's so cool. So cool. And raise your hand if you'd like to do this again in, I don't know, a couple weeks. Raise your hand if you'd like to do this again in a couple weeks. And we'll do it. Let's see. Oh, awesome. You're so welcome. You're so welcome, Bram. Yeah, I'm super happy to share. And Kei Chingon, hand. Good. So we've got at least one hand in the air. Jonathan, I know a little bit of Spanish, but I don't know that word. Claude, we've got a hand in the air. Awesome. So as long as email, yes, let's do that again. This is a good reminder that I do Skype lessons. I love Skype lessons because there isn't the self-consciousness that comes from the lesson happening in person, but we can do it across borders, across time zones.